Happy Soberversary. Today is Celebration Day. Welcome to Getting Back to Zero. I'm your host, Jeff, and today we are having our Soberversary party for someone that has made me laugh and was a key part to my early journey. So I'm hoping that I don't light the carpet on fire, but we'll see, or burn the dog when he comes in. Anyways, welcome everyone to Tuesday night, Getting Back to Zero. Tonight we're going to celebrate a 1-year Soberversary for Jen H on this National Earth, Wind, and Fire Day. So this is a big day, obviously, the 21st night of September. But Jen, well, I'm just going to bring her on. And Jen, how you doing? Welcome to Getting Back to Zero. How's it going?
I'm good.
So Jen, a lot of you know that I was the Luckiest Club. TLC was my support online group. It's where I kind of found community. It was a major part. And Jen came on, I think, around the same time. She taught me 3 big things. One is to smile. And she has, as you can see right there, an extremely infectious smile. Always made me laugh and was always a treat to hear. She also taught me about popcorn and has turned me into the equivalent of a heroin addict with popcorn. So I stick credit cards through my teeth numerous times during the day because of Jen. So I want to thank you for that, because now I am hooked to that stuff.
You need to carry in your car the toothpicks. That's the trick.
It's not as rewarding. I prefer to embarrass my children by using a playing card. It's just there's nothing like being at a light using a playing card and looking over and seeing someone staring at you in just disgust.
It's a very dad thing to do.
Yes, exactly. Hey, I've been married for 31 years. My work is done, so I'm not in this for who I can impress. My only purpose is to get the damn kernel out of my teeth. That's all I care about. And then Jen obviously taught me that the importance of Diet Pepsi over Diet Coke, and that's just another little battle we've had over the year. But Jen, I just want to say congratulations. Happy 1 year. It is a monumental. I don't know about you, but I have learned that day 1 is today. And tomorrow begins day 1 again, as far as that's all that we have, what we have behind us. But still, to have the big 1 year, to know that you've gone through every holiday, every birthday, every occasion, every Super Bowl, which I finally have one Super Bowl victory because the first one didn't go quite so well for me. But that's a monumental. So I just want to start and say, how'd you do it?
First of all, I need to get something real quick.
That's just wrong. It's just wrong. I'm going to have some coffee out of my World's Greatest Dad cup. And the people often say, that's so sweet. Your kids got that for you. No, I bought this for me.
I bought it myself.
No, my children, and I have 4. No, I don't even know if they know these exist. So no, I bought that thing for them. I also have a World's Greatest Dad T-shirt too that I wear whenever I'm with them. Just rub their face.
It's just listening to you explain that I have gone through all the holidays. My birthday's in June. All that stuff. I didn't look at it that way, but you're totally right. When you do this for a year's worth of time,
yeah, it's all we've everything is a repeat.
Yeah. So, geez, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. If that's not cliche. I just was over it. My recovery process started about a year before my sober date. So I had kind of just had enough, had kind of not a breakdown. I was still very functioning and doing everything, but I had never been that depressed and drinking that much, and decided to check myself into a mental wellness facility for a month. And it was a holistic mental wellness program that focused mostly on the main diagnosis of depression, but anybody who is depressed or has dealt with trauma and things like that, you have coping mechanisms, and I chose to use alcohol to cope. So my process kind of started a couple of years ago, and then I thought I could moderate. I was very adamant that I could do it, and I did okay, but obviously it didn't go well. And then September 20th of last year was when I decided I was done. And at that point, I had already kind of been through enough and had already started thinking about it. I started going to TLC meetings. I'm a huge fan of This Naked Mind with Annie Grace because her approach is just very science-based and kind of just lays it out. So did that alcohol-free experiment. I highly recommend that for anybody who is in the early stages of this or still kind of actively struggling with that urge every day, because her program and the way that she lays it all out was so helpful for me. And then for about 6 months, I went to meetings kind of every day. I would go to as many meetings as I could. Kind of around the 6 or 7 month mark, I kind of felt like I needed to just, in the pandemic, we opened up a little bit more and things started to feel a little bit more normal, and kind of scaled back on the meetings, but felt really secure with it. I've got great support in my family and my friends. I still see my therapist regularly. I have recovery friends that I made from all the different communities that I talk to. I have some that I talk to every day, and just kind of wanted to go out in the world with everything that I had taught myself and absorbed in those 6 or 7 months and just do it. I am a sober person who will go with friends and sit at a bar and have club soda or Diet Coke. I'm very comfortable with that. It doesn't bother me. I spent time, I grew up Mormon and spent time as an adult not having a drinking career. So I knew what it was like to do things without alcohol. So I kind of leaned into those memories and knowing what to do. And I just kind of powered through it. I was thinking today of all the things that I did to keep myself busy. I became an empty nester in the middle of all of this. I moved and sold my place and moved in with my boyfriend. So I had so much going on, but I dealt.
Wait, the empty nester though, because I think my drinking really took a turn because of the empty nester thing, but it was in the negative. It was because suddenly I didn't have kids at home or things to do or games or coaching or whatever.
Yeah, my life really changed. In the span of about 6 years, I left a 20-year abusive marriage. I became somebody who basically had to support themselves full time. I'm a real estate broker, and so I'm self-employed. I developed a new relationship, and my children, I became an empty nester, and I got sober in a pandemic. So I had a lot going on. I think if I wouldn't have started this work a couple of years ago, the empty nesting would have hit me a lot harder than it did. And that's not to say it didn't start a few years ago. I mean, my daughter just is in her 5th year of college. And so, that process started with her 4 years ago. And then my son he's out living on his own. So who's to say I wouldn't have gotten healthy? It could have hit me hard, but it makes sense. And I know, Jeff, you're an athlete, you've got athletic kids. I've got, my daughter's an athlete. I was a full-time, very involved mother. And about a year into having her go into school, I realized, wow, my life is so different because I was not taking care of these kids full time, but I was also not doing all of those volunteering and school activities and the games. I had a lot of free time, and for a handful of years, I drank a lot during it. But
can I ask you? And if I go too far, let me know. But your first marriage, you said, was abusive.
Yeah.
How did alcohol tie into that? Was alcohol a cause? Was alcohol a failed attempt to fix?
So growing up Mormons don't drink. my ex and I spent a lot of years as active Mormons, and then kind of, and it was choices to, we were making a lot of money. We wanted to go out and do things. And it kind of just turned into, let's start drinking. So to make, like, we went from consciously choosing to stop attending the Mormon church to, this is a lifestyle thing we wanted to do. And for a handful of years, probably a decade or so, it wasn't out of control, but we had a lifestyle, and we ran with a certain crowd in the industry that he was in. We did a lot of things because he was constantly he was in the finance industry. So a lot of entertaining. So it was everywhere. It just was our life. We lived in a place in New Jersey where you kind of worked hard and play hard, and everybody did it. So it didn't look like anybody had a problem because everybody was doing it. We were drinking on the sidelines at the soccer games on Saturday mornings. We were going out for pizza after the games. It's just what everybody did. It definitely didn't help the marriage at all. And a lot of the bad things that happened, alcohol was a part of that. It progressed from just drinking and partying and having fun to, I would drink to cope and trying to drown out what I was putting up with. It was a lot of emotional abuse. There was some physical abuse. And, I had a therapist a couple of years ago tell me that when you're in a certain situation, and this is anybody with any type of trauma or traumatic situation, you almost can't do anything to make those feelings go away. So it makes sense why somebody would gravitate towards wanting to drink, because that, for a brief period of time, gets rid of those trauma feelings you're having.
I'm jumping way ahead of all this discussion, but how do you cope? Because trauma is a major hot topic for me. I'm just seeing so much of a correlation. Even the small, that you hear the big T, small T trauma. I was a small T trauma, and I didn't even realize, but definitely coped because of.
Yeah,
How do you cope now?
Well, so to answer your question, I did really intense therapy. I did inpatient therapy and left nothing on the table. I went in there and told my story and let people listen, and had people tell me, you were abused and this is what you were going through, and worked really hard. After that, I did 3 months of outpatient, 3 nights a week. It was a part-time job doing the therapy, the trauma therapy, to heal from that. And then about a year later, I decided to completely stop drinking. So it was a lot of help from people who knew what they were doing, and just dealing with it. It was not easy. It was, I might get a little emotional. It was really painful, very painful, because when you drink and you have all these things that have happened to you, the drinking numbs everything out. And when you've stopped drinking and you're dealing with those things, you're feeling it. And then being away from it, I was fine. But then you don't correlate what a trigger is until it's happening. So something happens, and now I've been taught to know that those feelings I have come from my past, but I know how to deal with them now, whether it's, getting enough sleep, not making myself stressed out. For example, today I've had a crazy day, and I was like, oh, I got to do my hair and makeup so I can be on this thing. And then I was like, no, that's going to put me over the edge. It's going to make me not feel as calm as I need to be. You throw in a trigger in the middle of that kind of, couple of hours. And that's why I would open the fridge and have a glass of wine, because that would calm me down. So you're kind of in this like heightened sense of, what's the word I want to say? You're just constantly like
nerves are on edge, or
constantly
ready to go. We talk in recovery from alcohol. The key is talking to someone who gets it. It's not talking like my wife doesn't get it. She's the best, but she doesn't get it. She just like I'll never know what childbirth is like. I can guess, but I unless you deal with it, I don't understand the emotions go with it. I can't. She's not an alcoholic. She doesn't get it. So the importance of talking to someone that gets it made me feel, dealing with the trauma that you dealt with, did you talk with people that got it, or did you talk to a therapist? Because I've heard mixed emotions or mixed reviews
Yeah.
on.
So my first therapist when I was an inpatient was a woman who in her 40s had run herself down, who had basically lived a life for her husband and her children and was using alcohol to cope. So she also became a therapist later in life and learned, was able to wear her therapist hat. So I had the opportunity to be sitting with somebody who not only personally had gone through it herself, she was a 40-something-year-old woman, stressed out with life, using drugs and alcohol to cope, went and got clean, and then became a therapist. So I got to have somebody who had both experienced it herself as well as was properly trained. And you see that a lot, and especially if you do have the opportunity to go and do, intensive recovery work, there are a lot of people in there who have been through it, and they make some of the best therapists because they have personally gone through it. She looked at me and said, "Jen, it's no wonder why you drank like you did with what you've been through." And the second she said that to me, it was almost like, it makes perfect sense. Like, stop beating yourself up. You did this because this was the only thing that would help you feel better. She was also, trained to be able to do that, but had lived it herself. So, even my therapist now, I go to an addiction therapist. She's got a background in addiction recovery and other things, but I have stayed working with people who, whether they've experienced it themselves and become one, or they're just trained in that field. I've been very lucky to have kind of the perfect mix of people who deal with the addiction, people who deal with the trauma that causes the addiction, and then people who have personally been through it themselves.
It's my analogy is just because of football, but I always listened to football coaches that had played my position. Obviously, I was an offensive lineman, and I would have someone that was definitely the body of a wide receiver that had never been on the line in the trenches blocking guy. And when they would tell me what to do, I just almost laughed, saying, "You have no clue what I'm going through," and it didn't matter. And
no, it's a great analogy. Because a football team, you would think, oh, there's 12 guys out there all doing the same. They're all kind of, but they're not. They're not.
It's 11, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry. Why did I think it's 12? Soccer is 12.
That's okay. It's
Is it 11?
Yeah.
Are you just having me?
3, 5, 8, 7, 11.
Well,
if I'm wrong, the show is canceled. I'm done because I will never be able to show my face in life. And now you got me in a panic, wondering that am I going to make school? But no, it's 11. But
I believe you.
But no, I'm going to listen to someone that gets it. It was my wife telling me how to handle a moment of wanting to drink or a craving when she says, "Well, just don't do it." It's like,
it doesn't work. Yeah, just don't do it.
If only I had known. Just don't do it. Oh, wow. Why isn't that in a book or something? What a fantastic piece of advice. But to hear it from someone that's gone through it and says, "Man, I know, me too. I know that. I know what it's like."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
safety in numbers.
That's not to say there aren't people out there in the recovery world who haven't experienced themselves that can't be helpful. I mean, there's a lot of, I like to look at the science and all of the logic behind it, but you're better off to be around somebody who is either going to know that they need to not tell you to not just do it because that's not helpful, or be able to be around somebody who gets it. Yeah. And in the beginning, it's, it's all you did. It's what you used to cope with everything.
And you're the only one. And you're the only one that did that. To hear that someone else did, you got to be kidding me. You too. You used to, pour your beer into non-alcohol or alcohol-free beer cans and fill them with regular beer so that people think you're, it's like, I thought I was the only one. All these crazy things.
I always before I even started drinking, I've always got big cups of water with me. But at one point I remember my family saying like, well, maybe she is. She's always got that cup with her. And I will tell you that my big cups would fit a whole bottle of I was a big sparkling wine drinker. And I remember the day I figured out, holy shit, this whole bottle fits in this cup.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We were at my son's wedding this weekend and talking to some people. It's always interesting that come up and know what I'm doing and ask questions, but just the stories are funny to me when when I'm in recovery. If I was still drinking and still living that lifestyle, they wouldn't be funny. They would be just tragic. Correct. But the fact that I have, I can laugh that I used to poop my pants as a little kid. I've grown out of it. If I was still doing it as a 57-year-old man, it probably wouldn't be funny to me, but I've evolved somewhat. but my point, because I can now laugh at myself for situations, but hearing all the, someone, I don't even if it was on this show, but that used to buy the wine, the gift bags, so that when she bought her wine, she would buy the gift bags. So then it's obvious that she's giving them away, not for herself.
Well, yeah. Well, we
I thought
we do that. Like
the stories are hysterical of what we did.
Yes. And I am very much, humor's a big deal to me. I'm totally fine making fun of myself. And it's as a person who's been through this and done all the work to come out of it, I think we have every right to laugh in front of ourselves.
We've earned it. One that you said, and I'm gonna maybe you didn't say it this way, but it was interesting. I just heard you were talking about when you started a year ago, how you dabbled, tried the moderation, and you almost sounded and if you weren't, I know I hear it all the time, but a little defensive that you didn't, that it took you a little bit to get it right. And you said, well, I dabbled, but then 1 year. I've heard people say that, and it just kind of made me think, this is not an easy thing, this sobriety, and we have to learn how to be sober. You can't expect us or someone to know how to do this on day one. It's like riding a bike. You're going to fall, skin your knees, get up, try again until you finally figure out how to do it and ride the bike. But so with sobriety, it's like, oh my God, you failed after a couple months, or you had numerous day ones. We say it like almost we're embarrassed. This is a bitch. This is hard to learn how to do.
And I'm not embarrassed. I would say for the majority of us, it's not just about the fact that we're consuming too much alcohol. It's about all the things that have caused us to want to do it. And that takes a lot of work. In my mind, I thought, I'm divorced, I'm away from this. And for a couple of years, it was okay. And then you don't deal with shit, it's going to come back. So I actually really.
Great point.
Yeah. I really appreciate the way that I did this, and the fact that I was kind of a little bit stubborn and I was kind of arrogant. And I can remember too that, like, distinctly sitting with my addiction recovery therapist and saying, well, I'm going to moderate. And she, she's fantastic and very like, okay, Jen, let's see how that goes. And I was like, look, I'm going to do it. I am going to do it. And I'm going to keep touching the stove, and I'm going to keep touching it. And maybe it's going to work and I'm going to be okay with it. And I said to her, but if I touch it one day and it's really fucking hot and I need to stop doing it, I'm going to stop doing it. And I did.
But we have to prove it to ourselves sometimes.
Correct.
Because I don't want to, if there's a chance that eating alfalfa tablets will let me drink normally, I'm going to try it before I'm going to burn every attempt. And it's finally when I said, okay, none of it's working, I've got to do it the hard way and actually quit. But I'm not going to give it up if I still think I can sneak around, or I can still do it, learn to do it. I don't want to give up on that. I didn't want to give up on that.
For sure. And this is why when I came upon Annie Grace and This Naked Mind and her concept and just the science in her book about what alcohol does to you. When I finally read that, I was like, you know what? Anyone, any human being on this planet, if they were doing what I was doing to myself the way I was doing it, they would be having the same struggle. Mm-hmm. I had to identify why I was doing it and I had to fix it, which was all the trauma work. But this isn't just a like, any human being would get addicted to it because it's an addictive substance that's not good for us. So at that point, when I read that, I was like, oh, well, yeah, if somebody's sucking down wine every night, they're going to be addicted to it. And if they're going to want to stop, it's going to be hard to do. So at that point, I kind of thought it was like an even playing field. Like anybody who had gone through what I would have gone through would be in the same situation. So I just need to fix it.
I was on the meeting today. People were on day one again and kind of beating themselves up. And I sit here and I've got a year and a half. I have 2 journals full of notes. I've got several books that have more highlighter ink in them than actual printed ink in them. I mean, this is not, oh, I did it day one and it was a done deal.
No, absolutely not.
We can't. I'm surprised more people don't fail on their first because you don't know what you're doing. You're trying to, you haven't developed any of the tools. Day one, you quit drinking. That's not the fix. That's the start of the fix, but I got to fix me.
Totally.
I can only white knuckle it so long. So I got to fix the causes or I'm done. And that takes time to learn.
Well, and I would say to anybody who is in any type of recovery meeting, feeling the shame of what it's like to be sitting there back at another day one, you know what? I don't even care. What I want to know is why you drink. Tell me why you did it.
Learn.
Just tell me, like, were you going out with your friends? Did you get in a fight with whatever? Are you stressed because of this? Like, they didn't go out to do it so they could wake up the next day and feel shamed. There is a reason why they did it. And if
we got to identify it.
Well, even if it is, hey, I wanted to go party with my friends. Okay, let's talk about that. Can you go and party with your friends and not wake up the next day drunk and hungover and shameful? Like, what does that look like? And that's the life I live now. I went to a huge, very popular fundraising event here in Charlotte this weekend, massive. And I was completely sober and not even, but I'm to the point now where when I get around people who are very kind of aggressive, like that super boozy, like we started drinking during the day and we're drinking all night. It grosses me out. I'm not going to be rude and I'm going to be around it, but like, it doesn't even appeal to me anymore. So, yeah. But that was practice. I had to teach myself how to go and be in that type of situation so that I could be okay and not want to drink. My daughter graduated college in May. In the pandemic, we thankfully got to go and participate and be there. I can tell you that Saturday night at that party, I was literally the only person standing there that was not drinking. And I had seltzers in the back of the car the whole trip. And I just did what I needed to do. I had a plan, like with my partner, hey, if I'm not like feeling this, but I've taught myself how to be prepared and to recognize when my trauma related, triggers and all the PTSD comes up, what that feels like. And I've learned to kind of handle myself and just know what I need to do and not do.
Someone just put in, we don't know why we can't stop after the first one. And we have to figure that out. We can't, I think of you take your car into the dealership and say there's something wrong with it. The mechanic can't fix it without taking it for a test drive and figuring out what the problem is. He's gotta find out what's wrong with it before he can fix it.
Totally. And for me, the why I couldn't stop was because the relief and the buzz and the up that little bit of alcohol gave me when you first start to get intoxicated gave me a break from the shit that was everything else that was in my life. So for a brief whatever amount of time, like I finally was like, oh, I'm okay. I now have taught myself how to be okay with that.
Because at the time, that's the only thing that worked. And though brief, and it brought a ton of crap with it, for that short period, it worked.
It totally worked. And I don't say that flippantly. Like, I had the ability, and I made the choice myself to get out of a marriage. There are lots of us that have relationships and different factors in our life that cause us to have those feelings, that cause us to then reach for the alcohol to get that relief. So I know that I was able to take a lot of things out of my life to get rid of that, but I still had to do all the recovery work from the trauma and from the abuse. So again, back to the question, you're sitting in a meeting, oh, Jeff, I drank, I'm back at day one. Okay, why are you there? Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. I don't care if that takes you 400 days in a row to get to that point. If you're doing it that way, if you're actually looking at why you're drinking and thinking about it and studying it and trying to change it, you're gonna figure it out eventually.
Yeah. See, I am so lame with my analogies, but I don't know why. It's a curse because they all are so corny. But I just, as you were saying, when you said figuring it out, all I could think of was Mozart sucked at the piano on day one. He had to learn. He had to figure things out. He had to learn how to do the notes. He wasn't a master at playing day one.
No.
We have to learn how to be sober. We have to learn how to do our feelings. We have to learn, Bonnie just said, learning about ourselves. Right. I knew nothing about myself. And a year and a half later, I do know so much, like Bonnie, you just said, things I had no clue. You don't learn that on day one.
I've learned as a very, very sober person now, I'm very, and I'm confident. I am at a point in my life where you can put me in any situation and I will feel okay doing that. But I have learned, and I think a little bit because of the pandemic, I don't have to be the person that's doing everything and I've kind of gotten a little bit more introverted. And I look back on, I sit in the pandemic, I'm like, oh, I really kind of like being a homebody, but I really am not. I don't think I really was that wild and crazy girl as much as I thought I was, but it was getting sober that caused me to think maybe that's why I would drink and do certain things, because I didn't want to be out there doing it. I thought I had to be doing it, and I just wanted to be home doing whatever I wanted to be doing.
It's such a learning part. And the other, some people lose everything, car wreck, horrible tragedy, and they can be overnight and say, that's it, I'm done. It can be an instantaneous.
Very much so.
Thank God I didn't have that. I was in the high bottom, bottom.
Yes. I will say though, I was on, if I would have kept it up, I would have lost the relationship.
Oh yeah, completely.
And I have a fairy tale relationship now. I've got a wonderful, amazing, amazing man, and we've just made some decisions.
So it's all make believe, is what you're saying. It's pretend. He doesn't even exist.
But I had a very high.
It's a frog in your yard that you're hoping is going to turn into a prince one of these days.
No, he's real. I promise. I didn't get arrested. I didn't have a DUI. I've hurt my car. I drive a nice car, and the rims are messed up because of me drinking one night. But if I would have kept up, I would not have Josh anymore. I would not have the respect of my family. I would not have the respect of my children. I'm not, even though it didn't happen to me, that's to say it would have happened if I would have kept up. It does for everybody.
I was, without the high bottom, and I was a day away from losing everything, true. But when I quit, I wanted to quit drinking. I didn't want to quit drinking, but I wanted to want to quit drinking. I didn't, if that makes any sense.
Perfect sense.
I wished I did. I wished I didn't want to drink, but I wished I could.
And for me, I finally got to the point where I had done enough that I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't. There are people that don't want to do it because they're afraid of what their friends and family are going to say. I'm 43 years old. I've been through a lot of shit in my life. I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do things the way that I want to do it. I did my recovery that way. I go to AA meetings and I say, my name is Jen and I am sober. And half the room is like, what is she talking about? And if anybody ever questioned me on it, that's how I want to do it. And I I'm not going to let anybody tell me what I can and can't do. There's no rule on how we have to do this.
Well, if you tell me what to do, I go the opposite way.
Well, I have that person.
I want to, and I'm not saying you. I'm just saying if anyone tells me what to do, I go the opposite way. I have to want to go your way. You can't force me, and it's just like making someone quit. I don't know how interventions work. I
can tell you, I had one pulled on me once.
No, but how I don't get how they're successful other than temporary. Because it didn't work for me until I said I want this to work, and when I finally got to that point.
I think that they work because recovery and addiction stuff works if you're willing to do the work to make it work.
A year before you went into rehab or whatever you did, if I forced you, took you,
I wouldn't have gone.
Okay, I'm saying that's what I'm saying. That's what I don't think it has to. I can't make you want recovery. I can lock you in a cell and make you sober, but I can't. You have to want it yourself.
Yeah. And it really shifted for me about 6 months in, which would have been about 2 years into this whole thing. So it's actually 2.5 years. And when you work and you practice and you learn anything in life, you're going to get better at it and feel more confident. And that's what I did. I understood what all my trauma was. I understood how I needed to take care of myself. I understood how I needed to, deal with the stress of life. And at that point, not drinking alcohol was probably the only thing screwing stuff up for me. Honestly, like it really was. I've taken it out and everything. Well, I should exercise a little bit more, but that's for another topic.
I just got done jogging 13.7 miles. I had to cut it short because of the show. I haven't even showered. Well, I'm not sweating. That's the thing. It was. Oh, wait a minute. I was driving. That's right. It was something. One of the two.
I can tell you that I am living a life right now that there are a lot of really amazing things happening for me. And a lot of that is happening because I took alcohol out of my life and got back to being the person that I am and have worked really hard to make stuff happen.
Let's go back with wanting this or someone else wanting this for us 2.5 years ago. And I assume that's before you ever, but did your kids are old enough. Did they approach mom and say,
they knew it was a problem. I was a big binge drinker. So I would go 4 or 5 or 6 days with, I was too busy. And then I would go hit it hard and go party. And because I do what I do for work, I spent so much time managing my life so that I could fit in when I could drink the way that I wanted to. Just that alone, I have more free time from getting rid of that. But I would drink a ton and then be hungover all the next day because I could. I don't have a job where I have to get up and be there. And so for the most part, I wasn't showing up at events drunk. I wasn't drinking during the day and things like that. So I just recently had conversation with my son about that and asked him, and my son and I were talking about people that we know that have a drinking problem, and we know it's a drinking problem, and the way that they perceive other people's drinking problems to make themselves feel better about theirs. And he was like, well, Mom, you weren't that kind of a drinker. So, I think they knew it happened when I was married. My children knew that they had parents that were consuming alcohol, that were perpetuating fighting and things in the house. So they knew that. But, my children never came to me. Actually, I take that back. My last time I drank, I had gone out with a friend, and I was supposed to be back. We went to get our nails done. You can drink at the nail salons here, which is crazy, but I always do at mine. Well, so we had gone to get our nails done. I was supposed to bring the car back for my daughter to borrow because she was here living with the pandemic. She did say something to me like, Mom, why do you have to go out and do that? Like, I was at home waiting for the car. Why did you do that? And it was because I was drunk. So, I've had very open and honest conversations with my children. When I divorced their father, I had long conversations with them. When I made the decision to go into my inpatient, they knew what I was doing. So I've been very, very open about it. I've told them that if you ever want to talk about it, I think the people in my life that were more frustrated with it is my Josh, my partner, and, my mother would really struggle with it and be like, why can't you not do this? So I'd like to say I'm grateful that I could have done a lot more damage to my children. And I didn't. So, and I've given them permission. I'm like, you guys, if you want to talk to me and be mad about it, I'm ready to listen.
And that's huge. I think to give them that opportunity, the gift I can give my kids is to not hide it and to talk about it completely and open it up for whatever they want to ask me. I encourage them to ask me because I want to give them as much, but
they've also seen me working towards it too, Jeff.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. What my kids see me doing, it's you hear an AA about them making amends. They don't want to hear, I'm sorry. They couldn't care less about it. Right. They should be living in Missouri because it's the show me state. It's like, Dad, don't tell me you're sorry. Show me you're sorry.
Well, and
that takes time.
Right. And that's the point I had gotten with my partner. He didn't want to not be with me. He said to me, I don't want to be with this version of you.
Right.
And if you're going to continue to do this, I'm going to have to rethink this.
What were your negatives when you were drinking? Because mine, we just talked about this weekend. I was not a fall down drunk. Mine was the lying, the hiding, the isolating, the lack of communication. The drunkenness didn't help. Don't get me wrong, but I hid it so much. It was just I checked out from the family.
I at its worst, when you've got that unresolved trauma and that kind of pain, the drunker I would get, the more angry and not myself I would be. And Josh said that to me one day. He said, this was back when we were, I was drinking, and he would say, I could watch it happen to you. Cause I'm kind of a bag of fun regardless of booze. So I think the more drunk I would get, the more angry and kind of would go to this really dark place. And he's told me that he said, I've been sitting there and watching you just have another drink, and it's like something completely takes over you. So I think the amount that I was doing to kind of cope with what I thought it was helping, that was probably the bad part. It took me having to go and really face everything that went on and get healthy and be okay with it. I have to sit and realize that I spent 20 years of my life in a relationship where probably early on I probably should have left, but I didn't. So, I have to be okay with the way that my life was.
I'm not a therapist and I haven't lived through that, but it just seems like an obvious answer is I'm drinking to deal with the unhappy relationship I'm in. And now the next day I'm staying in it because I feel like such a piece of crap because I drink all the time. I'm not worthy to get out of this thing. I deserve it.
Ridiculous vicious cycle. And that's what chronic drinking and the hangovers and the shame and the state that you just physically put your body and your brain into when you're living that way. I think about what I've done and what I'm doing now, and I'm not the same person at all. Like I can be a very lazy. I like to lounge and, work hard and just kind of chill out, but I was just a lazy piece of crap. Not really I was working and I was doing what I needed to do, but I wasn't excited. I was numbed out. I was either drinking or recovering from heavily drinking. And maybe I would have a few days here or there that I was okay.
I think the depression is so easy to fall into because I I had to have sobriety. I didn't deserve sobriety until I'd been sober for a while, and I had to finally. It was a little bit. I don't know what day that happened when I went. You know what? I deserve this.
Totally. And
I'm worthy of being sober. Before it was like, you're such a piece of crap. You have to get sober for. It was negative reasons. It wasn't a plus that it became.
Yeah, now it is. Like
Yeah,
it
right.
is, again, I go back to Saturday night and I was walking to my car and there was a guy puking in the bushes and I thought, God, I like.
Did you say, Josh, come on, we got to go?
He's really, he doesn't, he drinks. I mean, there's beer in my fridge right now at my house.
Yeah, we're the same way.
But
as long as if I don't have that first, if I don't drink, I'm okay.
Totally.
But if I had one,
well, I've learned that, but
all bets are off.
I have earned the right to be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm a sober person sitting at the bar with my partner right now. Like, yeah, I've earned it and I'm good and I can sit here and be comfortable, but I had to work really hard to get there.
Same thing with happiness. With the way I'm living, I don't deserve to be happy. It's like I quit drinking to be less destructive, not to get happy. Now I'm doing it to get happy because now I feel, hey, I deserve to be happy for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. So we have made the decision to, and I think I might have shared this with you, or maybe I haven't. I don't know.
Yeah, it ticked me off.
So
anyway, before you say what it is, I live in the middle of Ohio.
Okay? I do.
Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure you knew that. And we have the Ohio River, which happens to be the same color as mud.
How's the seafood in Ohio? Just kidding.
It's so cold and wrong.
Josh and I have decided to move to St Croix, which is the U.S. Virgin Island in the Caribbean. For a lot of people, like, and most people in their brain, they think, oh, tropical island. Oh, I'm going to be drinking a drink on the beach. I will tell you, the island that we're moving to has the Captain Morgan's distillery on it. Like, I am moving to a place where there's a lot of it around. And somebody said to me, aren't you a little bit worried about that? I was like, no, because guess what? It's around all of us where we are here, everywhere. Like, I have lived a lifestyle and it's different for different people, but alcohol and booze and drinking is everywhere in our lifestyle.
The only challenge I would see there is not the accessibility of the beer. It's the stereotypical. I mean, when I think of that, I hear Jimmy Buffett playing.
And
every song on the radio is Jimmy Buffett and the sun, and my Diet Pepsi suddenly has a little umbrella in it. It's the stereotype is that's a setting where I associate with drinking.
Correct. And I am, and I know I need to figure out how I'm going to have all my tools down there, but just because that's the stereotype that exists there doesn't mean I have to go to a place there and live that. I'm going there to live a life a completely different way, regardless.
I sometimes feel I take that on. It's almost like having beer in our fridge. Some people see that as a negative. To me, it's a reason to be positive because it's overcoming an obstacle. So I 100%. Feel stronger because, if I knew that every bit of alcohol was hidden from me, and I would feel probably weaker. And I don't mean that because some people do need to have that, especially initially. I like the fact that it's here and I'm not doing it. It makes me feel stronger about myself.
No, I feel that way about what we're going to do, but I also feel that way every day. I mean, I have the ability, it's changed a lot, but at like my peak, I could be drinking all the time and nobody would have said anything about it for the most part. All of my friends, the business that I'm in, I could go out and find an excuse to go and have a drink every single night, regardless of where I am. Any of us could do that anywhere. So, I mean, I will be on an island, so I guess I'd have to have some sort of escape route. I did look up meetings when I was there, though, and they have them on the beach, so that'll be good.
I just see, I don't know. It's like, church gets out, and as soon as then they just change to take off your shirt, put on a new, and now you're at the AA meeting with the same people, and then you're grocery shoot, and now we're going to figure out, now we're having the PTA club. It's the same people. It's a small community. It's like Andy Griffith, where the sheriff is also the judge and the crossing guard and all the other things. But
I'm very much a believer in it's something for most of us that exists everywhere, alcohol, and the lifestyle revolving around alcohol. So you just kind of have to, wherever you're going, you're going to have to be confident with it. And it's a challenge. I take it as a challenge too. Like, watch me go do this and I'll be fine.
For me to pretend it doesn't exist is not healthy.
Correct. I'm the same way.
For me.
Yeah.
I'm not preaching that to anyone else. I'm just saying that is, for me.
But I think that's the biggest thing. So, like, to bring this back to how I've done this, I have very much done what I wanted to do. And I've listened to when I've been in recovery spaces or been told to do something that doesn't feel right. Like, if somebody's going to say, oh, perfect example. First therapist said to me, when you get home, you need to get rid of all the glassware. You need to get rid of it all of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Don't kiss your boyfriend if he's been drinking. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Like, it's a glass. Like, I need to teach myself how to be okay with those things. And I didn't listen to her, and I have learned to be okay with that. And I'm okay with that. If I had another recovery friend over and they said to me, I'm not comfortable if part of my recovery is not being around it or this or that, I would totally respect that. I have learned what I need to do this the way that I need to do it to be successful.
My wife, we don't put, I was a barista of cheap beer, and she doesn't have Natural Light and Bush Light in our fridge. We're at least giving myself a little bit of an edge by having beer that I normally wouldn't like. Not that I wouldn't.
Who likes gross beer?
But I'm not gonna gift wrap each one with my name on them at the same time. It's I don't make it overly hard for myself, but pretending it doesn't exist, kind of like I'm pretending these balloons that are here at your birthday aren't rubbing on the back of my head, driving me crazy right now. I'm willing to pretend they're not for you, when all I want to do is take this. Well, it's not going to happen, but you know what I'm saying. These things, they're driving me crazy. But I think I'm willing to sacrifice.
The biggest piece of advice I have is to do what you need to do to make yourself successful. And if that's not leaving your house and not seeing certain people and going to bed and just working and going, then do it. Do it.
Whatever you have to do is the bottom line. And don't people make the mistake, oh, well, Jen has booze in her house and she doesn't drink, so I'll do that because no, what works for you.
Yeah, you've got to dig deep and figure it out and be willing to set your standards.
Mm-hmm.
I
survive.
Well, yeah. Well, Josh has said to me, like, one of the first vacations we took coming out of the pandemic and me sober, we went to a beach town here in North Carolina, and he even said, like, hey, is it okay if I have a beer? And I was like, yeah. You know what I did? I said, you sit and enjoy your book. I'll walk down to the corner store and get it. If I didn't feel comfortable about him even having it, I needed to be able to say that.
But you were strong enough for you, that was a win to do that.
Totally.
It's not people, I get anger, people, but this is that ant abuse.
Right.
Disulfiram. I haven't taken it for a long time. I took it, I guess the last time was last Super Bowl, because that's when I had my 1 year. And people like, well, that's not, you need to address. I don't care what you say. That's how important sobriety was to me.
Totally.
I don't care what I have to do. If I've got to take an ant abuse to protect a year's worth of sobriety if I'm not, I don't care what you think. This
Yeah.
is about I'm not going to do what you think I should do. I am going to protect my sobriety my way, however whatever I have to do. Because if I don't, I'm risk, and now I'm in a world of hurt. So,
Absolutely.
and that's why, it's like you went down the street to get, to the corner to get the beer. If you gotta chain yourself to the bed, do it. I mean, it's to get through it.
Right.
We got to do what we got to do, but that isn't the long-term solution. At the same time, do what you got to do so that you can unchain yourself from that bed, and you can start to ease yourself back into those situations and back into a safe, but normal or more normal environment.
Totally. And I remember that shift. My recovery community and you, and there's a handful of people that have been a really big deal. And I stopped going to a lot of those meetings and being around those people, which was hard because I missed having the support of everyone, but I knew I needed to go and live life and figure out how to be a sober person that wasn't completely consumed with it, for 3 or 4 hours a day.
When you were ready, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Very much. Ready. Yes. And for some people it takes a lot longer. And for me, it just, and I had somebody the other day try to tell me like, oh, well, if you're going to AA meetings, you need a sponsor. And I looked at him and I was like, no, I don't. I was like, I'm good. I can go to those meetings if I want. I don't need to have a sponsor. But if you're somebody who wants to have that and do that, go and do that. And it's an amazing resource.
Speaking of sponsors, and not the word sponsor, but how important is what's not accountability, not peers, but the opposite of addiction is connection. How important is connection for you?
It's very, very important. And I've learned how to define what that looks like.
What is it? Define that.
If I feel like I need to go to a meeting, or if I feel like I need more of a organized recovery space, I find that. I know I have the AA app on my phone, and there have been moments where I'm like, you know what? I want to go and sit in that space because I'm feeling like shit, and I want to just be in the room with people who get it. So I'll do that. I consistently still go to therapy. In the beginning, I would be walking through the house and I would be like, oh, I'm craving a drink right now. I just need to say it. Like, I would just make people know that just so that I could be seen and heard. I have friends that I text all the time. I go to bed. I bring seltzer with me. I have ice cream in the freezer if I've had a hard day and I'm wanting to have a pick. I have things like that I do. I watch shows. I have magazines that I have delivered now. I'll go and read a magazine. Like, I just, instead of sitting down on my couch drinking wine, I will go and do something else that makes me happy. You know
what I love what you said was that you'll yell out, "Hey, I'm craving a drink right now." But what I like about that is so many people. How'd you do this weekend? Oh, no problem. Yeah, we went out. Didn't even think about it. No, I went to. Yeah, my son just had his wedding. Never thought about it, not a bit. What good is lying to everyone, including yourself? There is nothing. It's to acknowledge, like you just said, hey, I'm craving a drink right now. That's normal. Why not address it? Put it out on the table. Maybe let someone that gets it know so they can go, God, I know that feeling all too well, and da-da-da, and talk about it. To hide it, deny that it's there, does zero.
Makes it worse. It makes it worse, which is why recovery meetings are so good and sharing at them is so good, because just getting it out, like 3 weeks before. So we just spent 2 weeks in the Virgin Islands vacationing and, finding a house. 3 weeks before the trip, I was like, you know what, maybe I will have a drink, but I didn't say that I was going to do it for sure. I said maybe, and I said it, and I thought about it, and I had a conversation with my therapist. I had a conversation with my partner. I had a conversation with a friend. got busy getting ready for the trip, got on the trip, got a week into the trip and thought, I haven't even thought about having a drink. Mm-hmm. I think just the act of saying it when I felt it helped get rid of it. It was like I honored it, I put it out there, and I moved on to something else.
For me, by talking it, saying it, verbalizing it, I get it out of me onto the table where I can see it, and then I can fix it, address it, work on it, throw it away, whatever. But I can at least deal with it.
Totally.
Versus just hoping, turn my back and pretend it's because it, hope it goes away, because it just doesn't.
I mean, don't be afraid to push yourself to find things to keep yourself busy. And this might be a little bit of where I'm at in my stage of life. And I get it. But I busted my ass with my kids, and I'm at this stage where I do have a lot of free time, but there's stuff I'm doing. I forgot how much I love to read. I really have forgot because I was so drunk all the time or hungover or not. Like, I will sometimes in the middle of a Saturday be like, I'm going to go read.
They have classes for that in recovery groups. I could recommend some specialists.
Like, don't be afraid if you feel like there's something you want to do, like, go do it.
I having things to do. You know what I bought woodworking. I whittle.
Love it.
Which is just, when I have something, because I'm, just playing with it and carving. And, and after the bleeding stops, I realize I didn't drink. I'm about to pass out from being lightheaded, but I didn't drink. But I'm just saying that those are just things. It occupies my hands.
Yeah.
It occupies it gives me something to do than just to sit, other than just to sit and think, do I want to drink? I guess no, maybe
totally.
I don't. And that's, the other biggie for me is calling someone up. Hey, Jen, it's Jeff. I just, I got a half hour to kill before we head out, and it's knocking on the door, totally. and just let's talk about how balloons on the back of our head drive us crazy. But that, just anything. We had a friend, it's through AA, but I said, what'd you do? She said, I called so-and-so. She started asking me about hockey. And within 10 minutes, I had forgotten all about the fact that I was craving. We were buried in a conversation about hockey. And that's what, that was an example of what distraction, the importance of that. Hand, mouth, whether it's my Diet Pepsi or gum, I don't care, whatever. I kept those little red and white mints that are everywhere.
Yep.
I kept those in my truck just when I was driving, because I was a big, at the end of the day, or
totally
getting earlier and earlier, driving with a beer in my hand.
With a beer, yeah.
To have something,
yes,
it got my mind off it for a second.
I remember at the beginning opening the freezer one day, and I was like, oh my gosh, there were probably 10 pints of ice cream. Yeah.
Oh, I had no craving for sweets. Now it's
no, I have a pretty wicked sweet tooth, but I always have.
Sorry. I was tonight with my mother-in-law's birthday. I was like, sir, you're looking at the dessert menu, the main menu. I know. I'll start off my entree. I'll have the tiramisu, and let's
that
I
was just
so hungry after that. I'll go to the entree list, but let's get the good stuff. I had never cared about sweets, and now.
You should have seen. Every place we went on vacation, I was like, I know where the ice cream is, and we're gonna be getting an ice cream cone tonight.
But I'm good. My kids aren't shaking their head, and they're now they laugh and make fun of Dad instead of Dad, you got blueberry on your new white shirt. Nice job, buddy. Yeah, you're way to go. Whatever it is, but instead of the look of just true disgust that they had before.
Right. Yeah.
Look, we are over time. Jen, thank you for, what you gave me this year, for all the strength, the laughs, the motivation, the friendship, the realness, all of that. And I know you'll still be in touch and all that. Congratulations on the move.
And if there's anybody that's listened to this or wants to reach out, I'm happy. I am always happy to talk and take a call, an email, a text. And I am where I'm at because there were people there helping me, and I just want to be able to be that if somebody needs that. So,
yeah, and Jen she's the best. So if anyone does want her number, text me, put it in, DM me on the website, whatever, and I'll get you guys hooked up. So
absolutely,
hang in there, Jen.
Thank you.
Soberversary, and now I'm going to go find a worthy cause that's looking for some balloons, and they're going to become in about 10 minutes. They're going to become a tax write-off. So
I love it. My kids just showed up. We're going to go eat more sober cake.
That's awesome. All right, hang on there, and I will talk to you soon. All right, everyone. Thursday night, I think we're going to try and do the panel discussion because we normally do that on Tuesday, but I'll get things posted when I figure that out. And thanks for everyone for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.